Banking will come to order. Just to let everybody know what we're going to do today. We're first going to hear Senator Schroer's Senate Bill 1304, followed by Senator Fitzwater's Senate Bill 1050. And at some point, I hope we can establish a quorum and vote the trust bill that we heard a couple of weeks ago. So that will be our business. Senator Schroer, whenever you're ready, you can begin.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Madam Chair. For the record, Nick Schroer, Senate Bill 1304 from Senate District 2. This is a bill I think this committee's heard time and time again for the past several years. It began by an effort with Senator Whelan to tackle the issue of uninsured motorists in the state of Missouri. It's primarily geared toward ensuring that costs associated with the endeavor that passed recently are effectively contained. This measure is aimed at streamlining the process and implementing necessary protocols to guarantee the smooth operation of this program once it's implemented. The language contained in the bill was brought by the Department of Revenue as they worked through the implementation of the previous language that passed last year. They had some suggestions that would help drive down the costs and put an end date on steps that were developed to ensure the program was implemented smoothly. The bill removes that uninsured motorists caught through the diversion program will receive 4 points on their licenses. It also limits to 5 years after implementation the department's obligation to provide the legislature with annual reports regarding the program. It provides that the department's motor vehicle financial responsibility verification system shall be implemented as soon as technology is possible following the development and maintenance of the department's electronic titling and registration system rather than January 1st, 2025. And I know there's some witnesses here that can clarify on anything contained in this bill, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Well, I have no questions.
Perfect.
So thank you for that.
Thank you.
First up in favor of Senate Bill 1050, please come forward. Just a reminder to please fill out a witness form and leave it on the desk when you're up here. I'm sorry. Senate Bill 1304. I said the wrong one. To clarify, we are on 1304. I just said the wrong thing. You may proceed.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Brandon Koch with Missouri Insurance Coalition here to testify in support of the bill. Senator Schroer did an excellent job of laying out the 4 changes that this bill will make to the bill last year that passed. The only thing that I wanted to highlight, and had to do with the delayed effective date, one of the things that we looked at, the bill currently as written says as soon as technologically possible following the development and maintenance of this modernized system. What we did over in the House and working with the Department of Revenue is came up with a date, so in somewhat of a date certain instead of until it's technologically available. So the additional language that we are hoping to add is that it's no later than December 31st, 2027, and then it carries on with the language as presented as soon as technologically possible. But we're here in complete support of the bill.
I have no questions. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Next up in favor of Senate Bill 1304. Seeing none, anyone here to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 1304? Seeing none, anyone here for informational purposes only?
Good morning. I'm Zach Wyatt, the Legislative Director for Missouri Department of Revenue. Just to kind of give everyone a heads up on it. So when we were implementing the previous bill that was passed, we were starting our NDIs for the budgetary process, and we realized quickly that we would have had to ask the legislature for around, it was about $2 million twice to implement this program twice, due to the fact that we are actually in the process of implementing a new motor vehicle and driver's license system, and that is slated to be implemented, fingers crossed. Driver's license will be implemented in November of this year, and motor vehicle will be implemented in July of 26. So we do believe the date that was suggested is actually a good date for us to be able to meet that deadline. Some of the other things with the points on the license and stuff. A lot of people don't realize how you register your vehicle. There's some people that have both spouses are on their vehicle. So then the question that came from us was, okay, so who gets the 4 points? The person that's first on the title, or both of them get 4 points taken off of their license. And if it was the first, you would see a lot of spouses fighting over who was going to be first and who was going to be second. I know our director even said he would be making sure that his wife was first on his titles. The other issue came with trust. A lot of people title their vehicles in trust, and we wouldn't have been able to put points towards the trust. So we believed in order for the fairness factor of it all to be able to apply it equally to everyone, that we needed to get rid of that aspect. So if there's any questions, I'd be willing to answer.
I do not have any questions. Thank you for your testimony.
Yep.
Anyone else for informational purposes only for Senate Bill 1304? Seeing none, this will conclude the hearing on Senate Bill 1304. Senator Fitzwater is in another committee meeting. Senator, did you have any final comments? I apologize. I forgot. So do I. We may be sitting here for a while. Senator Fitzwater's in another hearing, so we're going to stand at ease until hopefully we get a quorum and Senator Fitzwater here. Be Senate Bill 1050 with Senator Fitzwater, and you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and all the members of the committee that sit before me. Appreciate the time. Thrilled to bring this back before you. Last year you passed this bill out of committee, so it's something you've heard before, and this just protects Bitcoin miners from local jurisdictions being overly onerous on their opportunity to mine cryptocurrencies. So we just want to make sure that municipalities can't get in the way of local entities' freedom, or local folks' freedom to mine these products. Not to belabor the points that much, but functionally it'll just ensure that a local municipality can't punish somebody for using the local ordinances that are already in place for sound, noise, those type of things. It's just a simple fairness issue to ensure that municipalities don't come in and kneecap the opportunity for these individuals to mine Bitcoin if they're not disturbing their neighbors. There's that, and then the PSC will also have some ensure that the PSC can't also punish them for any infrastructure build-outs. Obviously, they should be paying their fair share of the infrastructure cost, but need to make sure that they're not going overboard to subsidize other folks by punishing miners for their build-outs of these mining systems. So, glad to take any questions.
I have no questions. As you can see, I'm the only one here at the moment. We're hoping to get a quorum, so this actually counts.
Yeah, good luck.
First up, in favor of Senate Bill 1050, please come forward.
Good morning. My name is Eric Peterson. I'm the Policy Director for Satoshi Action Fund. We are a state-based nonprofit organization that advocates and educates on Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining. To just level set a little bit, I think Senator Fitzwater did a great job of talking about what is in the bill. But let's take a quick second to talk about what Bitcoin mining is, because nothing is coming out of the ground. Let me be very clear on that. It is unfortunately a misnomer that we are stuck with. These are data centers. When anybody goes and opens an online bank account or uses PayPal or Venmo, there is some data center that processes that transaction on the back end. These Bitcoin miners are better understood as Bitcoin data centers that just process Bitcoin transactions. They allow people to send Bitcoin to anyone all over the world, 365, 24/7. This is a growing industry. They're bringing in about $50 million a day to the United States. And Missouri has a chance to not only have some of these businesses, which they do, but grow in this industry. And why is that? That's because Bitcoin miners go to rurally depressed areas that have typically had some sort of cornerstone business go out of business, but the infrastructure is there for them to repurpose it into a new thriving job. I will give a great example. In Mexico, Missouri, there was previously a brick factory. That brick factory is now out of business. A Bitcoin miner has come in, they've bought the building, they've revamped the power station, they put a bunch of computers in there to process these transactions, and they've hired a dozen people, all between $50,000 and $100,000. So it's not as much as the brick factory, but it is still a positive to this community, including electricians, other folks that are going to come in and service that. As Senator Fitzwater said, the legislation is really just to create an equal and fair playing field. We just say if you are zoned for industrial use, like a brick factory, that you have to meet all of those same qualifications, but you can't get extra qualifications put on top of you. Generally, these have been due to noise. Sometimes these computers can be loud if not properly mitigated. We want to make sure that they're not bothering their neighbors. We want to ensure that there are laws on the books right now to make sure that that happens. And because right now this is an unregulated industry. We are proactively going forward and saying, look, we will make sure that everyone who's in the state is registered and is a good neighbor, but for doing so, we want to make sure that they're not discriminated against, and that's really all this legislation is about. I know you might hear a little bit later about its energy usage. Bitcoin mining across the entire United States uses less than 0.01% of American energy. We use a very, very tiny amount of energy overall, less than air conditioning, less than video games, less than a whole number of things, including Christmas lights. They are very energy dense, so they do use a lot of energy where they are. But this industry uses more wind, solar, hydro, and nuclear than comparable industries. Over 60% of the energy that is gone into Bitcoin mining generates zero carbon at a marginal cost. So this is not a bad thing for the environment. It's a great thing for local economies. And it's important because it's a business that exists in Missouri right now that we just create the rules of the road for this going forward.
Any questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Next up in favor of Senate Bill 1050.
Good morning, Madam Chairwoman, committee members. My name is John Ruth. I'm a resident, a lifelong resident here of Jefferson City. I'm a co-founder of an investment fund company called Build Asset Management. One of our products is a private credit strategy that uses Bitcoin as a form of collateral. So it's interesting that Bitcoin influences even the Missouri economy and here locally in Jefferson City. As a business owner, and also having a tangential relationship to Bitcoin, I can tell you in the cases of regulatory clarity is often what you're looking for as a business owner to give business direction. While I am a Missourian through and through, many people in the Bitcoin ecosystem are really able travelers, and they're looking for a home that provides them regulatory clarity. I believe that we're at a point in time in the S-curve and the influx of Bitcoin as a technology that you're going to see a lot of folks picking and choosing homes the same way you did in the tech boom, which happened to favor Silicon Valley and many coastal entities. So this is also, I think, an opportunity to attract talented business owners and attract what is really an innovative part of our financial system and financial rail. So I think this is a good bill for that clarity, and I thank you for taking it up and for allowing me to speak this morning.
Thank you for your testimony. Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you again.
Thank you.
Next up in favor of Senate Bill 1050. Seeing none, anyone here wishing to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 1050?
Good morning, Chair, members of the committee. My name is Michael Berg, and I'm testifying representing the Missouri Sierra Club, and the Missouri Sierra Club is very much opposed to this bill for several reasons. The biggest is the needless consumption of energy. If you look at, it's a lot of fossil fuel interests are encouraging bills like this around the country and these kind of things. And the industry chases cheap energy. That is the main component to Bitcoin mining. Note that it's only Bitcoin that uses this enormous amount of energy. Other cryptocurrencies, we don't have a position on cryptocurrency as a concept, but the Bitcoin mining uses a lot of energy, and it puts a lot of strain on the grid that could harm existing electric customers. The industry usually, when it comes in, produces very few jobs. And if you look at a lot of communities, bills like this, and also coming in communities, a lot of leaders have regretted when they've allowed operations to come in, and when Arkansas is now having second thoughts about similar bill that was passed last year. The former mayor of Plattsburgh, New York, was dealing with one of these operations that's now gone, and he said, I'm for economic development, but the biggest mine operators create fewer jobs than a McDonald's. A lot of energy for very few jobs, and with all this burning and the needing to cool the computers and the systems that are operating, it's harmful to water and air quality, creates a lot of electronic waste. And then there's the issue of noise. Noise is a huge issue. You've had people over and over who've been next to operations who compare it to like a jet engine just idling on a nearby tarmac over and over all day, every day. Terrible for the people, can be damaging to animals nearby. It's people in Missouri should have the right, if an operation comes in, to specifically say we don't want it creating too much noise. And clearly people do this. Otherwise, nobody would be putting this bill forward. People have been concerned about the noise. And then you've got, first and foremost, this is a utility bill. This is a bill that affects the PSC. And so the bill appears to flatly prohibit any discriminatory rates from crypto mining without any requirements to show that discrimination is undue or unreasonable. So the Missouri already requires the PSC cannot unduly discriminate against rates that are just and reasonable, and there's no need to change it just to give an advantage to crypto miners. What this bill would actually do is give special status to crypto miners and take power away from the PSC that it should be entitled to use to protect consumers and the stability of the grid. And adding the specific language solely about crypto miners, places them in a separate category and takes away the power of the PSC to do its job and protect all of this. It's being pushed by giant money-making crypto firms. You've got more and more, as time advances, more of the operators are fewer and fewer hands, and there's a lot of money involved lobbying to pass bills like this, and it's not mostly coming from Missouri. This is not in the interest of the people of Missouri. You have the PSC, like a lot of states have put specific, Idaho and Washington and other places have put specific rates to adequately deal with the effects on the grid and the negative damage caused by crypto mining. And the PSC in Missouri should retain this right. So we see that this bill is harmful for Missourians, and we would ask you to reject it.
Questions for this witness? Senator Trent.
Thank you. So how would this differ in your mind from other switches or from other electrical uses that might burden the grid and create the attenuated problems that you described, like electric cars, for example?
How would it differ from electric cars? For the first, there's no carve-out for the PSC to have different rates. Like, there's no special treatment of the PSC. Second of all, like electric cars, power cars.
So you would support a rule that allowed the PSC to charge extra for electricity going to electric cars?
No, we want it to stay the same. Right now.
Well, isn't that what this bill is asking? Is that the electricity usage not be discriminated against on the basis of what's being used for?
It says. Right now you have rules that say there should be no undue discrimination, so the PSC can see whether you can charge separate rates based on whether it's just and reasonable. this is the way it works now.
So you wouldn't mind a just and reasonable rate that was elevated for electrical cars?
I mean, I don't think that's needed, but we're not asking for the PSC to change their rate, the way they do things for this kind of thing. This is what this bill is asking for, specific carve out for crypto mining.
Well, that's a curious position, but please continue with you had some other things you were getting ready to say.
No, I got through everything.
Oh, okay. Well, it seemed like I was interrupting you, but perhaps not. This seems like a very odd position that you've taken here, but I appreciate your explanation. Thank you.
Further questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for testimony. Anyone else in opposition to Senate Bill 1050?
Good morning. My name is John Kaufman on behalf of the Consumers Council of Missouri. Madam Chair, members of the committee, we are opposed to Senate Bill 1050 and are focused specifically on the discriminatory rates section. We have no opinion on the hazard or benefits of crypto mining, nor anything other than how this would interfere with the Public Service Commission's mission of setting rates. We represent residential customers and are very familiar with the statute that currently applies to discriminatory rates, and I would ask that you take a look at 393.130.3, where the Public Service Commission there is a standard for discrimination that applies to all customer classes, preventing undue or unreasonable preference or advantage within the class as the Public Service Commission sets. The problem with the Senate Bill 1050 is the definition of discriminatory rates in subsection 5 on the front page, and then the last section, which is section 5, in that it would set up a contradictory standard that is not the same anti-discriminatory section that applies to other customers. So while it may purport to prevent discrimination against those, it uses different wording and different a different type of anti-discriminatory statute that is, at the very least, going to lead to litigation and confusion at the Public Service Commission. If the intent is to actually have the non-discriminatory standard apply to crypto mining, then we should just have the one statute that makes sure that no particular class is discriminated against. If you'll note, in the definition of discriminatory rates, it of course doesn't use the undue or unreasonable standard, but rather says that the rates cannot be substantially different than other industrial uses, which suggests that there would be a special privileged class within industrial rates. I would say at best this is unneeded. At worst, this is going to lead to litigation and confusion, and we would prefer that these decisions about how to classify and whether rates are discriminatory be left up to the Public Service Commission, which is able to look at the load, look at the uses, and treat each particular type of use fairly vis-a-vis the other types, whether it be residential, small business, or other industrial uses. That's my testimony.
Thank you for your testimony. Senator Trent.
Thank you. So do you believe that this language would result in more or less discrimination for cryptocurrencies than existing industrials?
More or less? I'm not sure.
Well, I mean, do you think that this standard would treat them more favorably or less favorably than the existing standard that the PSC uses, if they are in fact different?
If anything, yeah, it would treat cryptocurrency businesses more favorably and require subsidy from other industrial users or from residential and small business users.
And you think that right now, and like the PSC has a pretty broad range to discriminate between users, and that this would reduce the discrimination, and that would result in a subsidy.
You mean is your question about whether they have enough discretion, or whether
this would result in them having less discretion than they currently have? Is your belief?
Yes, I mean, but the I think the first thing is that they're going to scratch their heads. They're going to say, which standard do we use? Right?
Well, if this problem were addressed, would you then be in support of the bill?
If you deleted those sections, we'd have no problem.
Okay. Fair enough. Thank you.
Further questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Anyone else in opposition to Senate Bill 1050? Seeing none, anyone here for informational purposes only for Senate Bill 1050? Seeing none, Senator, any final comments?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate you having the hearing.
Thank you for being here this morning, and we're going to stand at ease for this. Will conclude the hearing on Senate Bill 1050. We're going to stand at ease for just a minute. Barb, would you please call the roll?
Senators Crawford,
Here.
Trent, Brown, Hoskins, Huff, Mosley, Roberts.
We do have a quorum. I move that we go into executive session. Do I have a second? I have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. The ayes have it. I move that we take up Senate Bill 1482. Do I have a second? I have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. And the ayes have it. This is the bill that we heard a couple of weeks ago. It was my bill. It was the Missouri Family Trust Act bill. And just for the, I'm not sure how many people were here to actually hear the hearing. I can't remember at this moment, but just a refresher since it's been a couple of weeks. This just takes the Missouri Family Trust that is now under the Secretary of State's office and moves it to the Division of Finance. The bill is a little bit lengthy, but I think one of the witnesses said we had to change secretary to director in about 100 spots in the statute. So that's what it does, moves it from the Secretary of State's to the Division of Finance. Is there any discussion? Okay, I move that we vote Senate Bill 1482 out of committee. Do pass. Do I have a second? Second. Now again, is there any discussion? Seeing none, Barb, would you please call the roll?
Senators Crawford,
Aye.
Trent, Brown, Hoskins, Huff, Mosley, Roberts.
By your vote of 5-0, you have do passed Senate Bill 1482. I move that we go out of executive session. Do I have a second? All in favor say aye. Aye. We are out of executive session. I make a motion that we adjourn. Do I have a second? I have a second. All in favor say aye. We are adjourned.